Hey guys, so some of you have been following me on Facebook and also my asexuality music project, and you'll know then that I got sick, like badly enough that I had to cancel my second performance. And some of you were asking me about, like, is everything okay and whatever, because I think at least on some platforms I mentioned that the doctor was like, if it gets any worse you've got to go to hospital, and that's kind of dramatic. Yeah, so I'm just going to try and give you a quick update on that. But it was a little while ago, so I've kind of forgotten some of the details. And also, like, I don't have a whole lot of time because I'm all dressed up with the sort of ripped top. I got a little pentagram thing, and I've done my makeup again, that same dodgy method that I used. But yeah, because I'm going to see the Mormons tonight, and I'm heaps excited. Yes, I've been waiting for this for ages, and it's at the end of uni semester. But yeah, anyway, so, when I was getting sick, it was a little bit after that first performance I did, which is like 2 videos ago, I think. And, it just started out as a common cold, like headaches, sniffles. I didn't have a cough, and I didn't have, like, lymph nodes going funny. I had a bit of a weird chest pain, though, and the doctor's like, well, it's probably just being sick, but if it gets any worse, we might need to check it because it could be like a blood clot in your lung. And I was like, gee, that sounds fun, but thankfully it wasn't that. What other symptoms? Headache, sniffles. Oh, sore throat, that was a big one. And I had like mouth ulcers going a little bit crazy, which happened last year, but that was due to a product I was using, and when I stopped using that product, all the mouth ulcers cleared up. So I don't know why it happened this time. I guess that's why when I saw the doctor... Alright, let me try and get my timeline straight. So, the Wednesday was when I was supposed to perform in that week 13, which I forget what dates that was. So on that same week, on the Monday, I was still pretty sick, and I was a little bit worried that my performance on Wednesday wasn't going to be the greatest. I was still planning to do the performance at that point because I was improving, but I still had the sore throat and my voice was a little bit shit. I mean, I was already getting better enough that I could growl, but your singing voice needs to be a little bit nicer. So I went to the doctor asking for a medical certificate to explain to my lecturer, the professor who was marking me. He already marked the first performance, so he knows how I can sing, but just to explain, it's probably not going to be the best performance. I'm going to have to tone it down, because there's one song I didn't get to perform in that first one, and I was going to do it this time around. Also, to just check and make sure that there's nothing else going on, because it was taking a while to clear up. And just, like, how to manage it. I mean, I guess the usual stuff of rest and try and keep your fluids up and all that. But yeah, so I got the medical certificate. As for, like, what's wrong with me, she took a couple of swabs. One for mouth herpes, same as they tested me last time. One for mouth herpes, and then this time they also did one for strep throat in case it was bacterial. And then she started me on antibiotics just in case. I mean, usually she would wait, and I agree with this, usually she would wait until that strep test comes back positive, but she was like, well, it's your final uni thing, it's in 2 days, we won't get the results for 2 days, so you better start it now just in case. So I did that, and yeah, just regular management strategies. I got Sepicaine mouthwash, which is amazing if you need to numb your throat in a hurry. Don't have hot stuff right after you've done that, but if you are having trouble swallowing food and water, Sepicaine mouthwash is the best. And then the rest of the time, that sort of numbing strepsils lozenges things, those are the 2 products that got me through this, helping me keep eating and drinking, because if you don't do that, you're gonna, like, wither away and die, or maybe not die, but end up in hospital. That was one of the concerns, if you're not drinking enough. But yeah, on that Monday, I was starting to get better, so it looked okay. But the very next day, I woke up with much worse throat pain, and it was just terrible, and it suddenly got worse, and the mouth ulcers, like, I did have some that were starting to go away, but then they kind of just exploded, like, through my mouth, so I had mouth ulcers everywhere, like, up the back of my throat. Until last year, I had never had mouth ulcers up the back of my throat, as far as I knew, but I hope this isn't my new reality, because that's going to suck. Anyway, So, yeah, I don't remember exactly what time I decided to cancel all my shows because I was a bit out of it. It's hard to concentrate. I was a real mess. I was just in bed for ages. But yeah, so I cancelled all my shows and then I went back to the doctor and I found my notes that I wrote for her. So I'll read them out to you because it was hard to talk. It was painful. Just like the vibrations vibrating against the painful things in my throat. So let's read what I did because I can't remember all the details. So talking is a bit hard at the moment since yesterday. So I'm telling her this on Wednesday. Throat incredibly painful, mostly up the back. Lozenges and mouthwash seem unable to reach most of it. Worst pain while swallowing. Managing to drink some water but very little food. Up and go drink is more painful than water. Up and go is kind of like a milk, thing with, they claim lots of nutrients or, I don't know, like sort of like a meal replacement, but, not really a hardcore, just one that you go up to the shops to get. I don't know if you have that in your country. If you're watching from outside Australia, let's keep going. Some success mixing honey with water if taken shortly after numbing mouthwash. Managing to take antibiotics, Panadol, Nurofen, but painful. About every 2 hours, my mouth seems to get very dry, especially if I've been trying to rest sleep, at which point the pain is a bit less, but intensifies as I inevitably try to swallow and bring the moisture back. Then it sometimes also feels a bit mucousy up back. Occasionally need to clear throat, which is new, so I didn't have to clear my throat much on Monday, so it didn't really suggest to me that there was much gunk in my throat, but by Wednesday I had gunk in my throat. Also, drinking water leads to burping, which I can't force up due to pain. I just have to let it come up on its own. That was weird, not being able to burp properly. So mainly pain is problem, how to manage. Ulcers still present, but seem less of an issue than pain at back of throat. Although back of the throat, they looked like ulcers to me. Ulcer at front of lip, less painful than on Monday. New ulcers on top lip, but not so painful. Headaches returning, but probably from staying in bed so much, not sleeping well, not eating much, etc. Sniffling almost gone, but occasionally feels like I need to blow my nose anyway. Bit dizzy and off balance, but that's probably also a sleep food issue. Cancelled performance assessment for later that day. Professor is okay with it, but perhaps I need to update medical certificate to reflect new situation. Also not sure if I'll make it to class on Friday, which puts me at risk. Which risks putting me in too many absences for the semester. Also, I missed last week's class for that subject, so I had been sick a little bit before that. And yeah, you're not supposed to miss a certain number of classes, except at the art school they're a little bit lax on that, and it turned out not to be a problem, but I was a bit worried about that. So that's kind of a summary of the symptoms I had. The mouth herpes came back negative again, and the strep came back negative. On that Wednesday, the doctor also ordered a blood test, and that eventually came back with showing nothing. I think she was testing me for glandular fever, and I'm like, I don't know how I would catch that, but okay, go ahead. The only thing that blood test showed was slightly high inflammation, so I did another blood test about a week and a half later, and that it was gone. So it was just a regular inflammation due to virus, I guess. The other thing she did is she put me on steroids because the throat pain was so bad and it was clearly a bit of inflammation going on. And, you know, when you're sick and all that, and just in general, you need to keep hydrated, otherwise it's not good. So, yeah, she gave me the steroids and said, you know, you got to take it for 3 days. If you don't start to feel some relief by the end of the day, you need to go to hospital and probably get IV fluids and, no, what did she say? IV steroids to help clear it up. And, yeah, I waited till the next morning. I was like, oh, I'll give it a bit more time because I was still eating a little bit. You know, my brother Dave looked after me really well. So yeah, and then by the next day, it was starting to feel a bit better. And it still took me a while to recover. I mean, I was okay to go out to see my classmates' exhibition the next week. but I was still pretty under the weather, and it's just sort of taken a while to get back up to strength, and, you know, I can finally sing and all that again, but it was the worst timing, because this all happened in week 13, right? And week 13 is the last week of classes at my uni, and then you've got 2 weeks of assessments and exams and whatever. For my subject, there's no exams, but assessments that you submit online. There was one I had to go in person to submit. That was the one at the exhibition. I had to gather all my material, sort of like a visual diary for my asexuality music project, except that mine was sounds. I had to chuck a bunch of sounds on the USB and all my notes about how I did things, research. There was also a bunch of exercises we had to do. Yeah, so that took a while. But I basically lost 2 weeks of productivity. So on top of that project, I also had to do, if you've been watching or at least seeing my videos come up of all the performances that other people have done, I had to go to those as part of another assessment where I have to do a blog about what I learned from going to cultural events. And instead of art galleries, I went to gigs. Best assignment ever. But then, yeah, I had to blog about it, about what I learned and what I could use for my own practice. So then I had to do like a final essay summing up all of that stuff. What did I learn from this? Which wasn't too big, but on top of everything else, I had to do that. And then there was that final project paper, which I submitted at the beginning of the last video. You saw me getting all excited about that. That's a 3,000 to 5,000 word paper about my asexuality project, and just like, I hadn't started it at that point because I was focusing on doing my performances, and then I got sick, and it's just like, oh, I didn't have time to do any extra research, and it was a bit of a rush, but I managed to submit it a day early, and yeah, so I did it in the end. It's just like, you know, I had to sort of compromise and be like, okay, look, you've been sick, it's okay not to do the best job ever, and I just went, done, I'll pass the course, it'll be fine. So that was the first thing about bad timing. The second thing about bad timing is my parents went on a 2-week trip overseas. So it's just me, my brother Dave, and my other brother Mikey. Mikey's the disabled one. And it's not too bad because we these days, because of the NDS, we now get carers in to help us, so that we don't have to send Mikey to like a home for, you know, to temporarily look after him. But then Mikey got sick and I was useless. I mean, I'm not great with his care anyway. It got really awkward for me when he went through puberty. Also, just like he got heaps stronger at the same time, and you know, I'm quite small and it's just too much. Plus I have mental problems. So I haven't been able to cope with a lot of his care for a long time. But I can keep an eye on him and do some of the other things. But I was sick and I just could not be involved in organising that stuff. So my other brother had to do all that, except he works during the week, so he had to take a day off to take him to the doctor and all this kind of stuff. And it was really hard, but my brother Dave is just amazing. Like, he was looking after Mikey and me. Mikey didn't have what I had though. He just had a regular cold, and you know, it probably looked worse than it was just because he can't clear his throat the way that most of us can. So, you know, he'll be coughing a lot more and sniffling a lot more than the average person. But yeah, no, he was, you know, asleep for 2 days and then fine, pretty much. Just continuing to sniffle and cough a bit. But really happy and, you know, ready to go and have some action. Whereas I was being told that I might have to go to the hospital. And, yeah, we tried not to tell the parents, but we had to get Mikey's details for some stuff. So, yeah. And then it was like, oh, don't stress, parents. We're like handling it okay. Relatives helping us too. But, you know, my mum was having a bit of a panic, like, how's Mikey, blah, 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 sending me a gazillion messages while I'm in bed, like, Mum, I'm kind of dying, can you just let me sleep? Which is kind of funny. Anyway, I don't want to get into too much more family stuff, and like, it's already 15 minutes. I've got to get ready, I've got to have something to eat, figure out what kind of jumper I want to have. I'm probably going to put on a hoodie. Is that everything? But yeah, anyway, so if you were worried about me going to hospital, it's not a big deal. It was just some random mystery virus, probably. I don't know what made me sick, but I have gotten over it. Didn't end up in hospital. Things are okay. Nothing to worry about. Hopefully there's nothing long-term going on there. Nothing showed up in any of my swabs. Nothing showed up in my blood test. I'm a little bit worried that I've had the mouth ulcer spreading thing happen twice now, so I think that's something I need to keep an eye on, and I might talk to my doctor. I saw a different doctor this time because my usual doctor wasn't available, but I might talk to my usual doctor about, you know, this happened twice, also I'm a singer, I can't really have this happen, what could it be, what can we do about it, but yeah, we don't know, just as far as anyone can tell, I'm reasonably healthy. It's just one of those things. Yeah, so I'm gonna go and get ready. I guess maybe the last thing I'll mention is I've made a Tumblr. I don't know if this is a good idea, and I'm not gonna like heavy promote it, but I'll put the link in the description if you want to check that out. I have no idea what I'm doing. I've like, you know, when you sign up, they make you choose a bunch of interests and then flood you with all this crap. And I'm like, well, I don't want to see that. So I tried following a bunch of people to try and flood that out. But then I ended up with too many because it's just constantly updating. It's nuts. Tumblr's crazy. It's just constant stuff popping up on the feed. And then, so I tried unfollowing a bunch of people, but I think I've overdone it. So now I'm trying to refollow. And I think I'm just going to have to like follow and unfollow until I get a balance. And I don't know if I really have time for that, but we'll see. Tumblr's an interesting place. It reminds me of YouTube way before they made us have all the same profiles. So like if you have been around that long, YouTube used to be almost like MySpace. You could customize everything. I've got screenshots of that. I've got a screenshot up on, that's it. I printed out my channel like 10 years ago. How funny is that? I've still got it up there. Gosh. Yeah. And like, you know, you could do fun stuff with it. And that was also back when I was talking about vampires and other kin and shit. And then I go onto Tumblr and I'm like, that's where it all went. Instead of YouTube, now it's on Tumblr. And I mean, I never really believed in any of that stuff, but I've always found it fascinating. There is a lot of arguing going on Tumblr, and so I'm just like, woo, let's back away from that. But, yeah, it's kind of exciting to see all that stuff. I don't know if I have that much time. I've got a huge list of things I want to do with my break. You know, I'm trying to take some time off before I pick my life back up. Anyway, if you want to see that stuff, it's under the same Destroy America thing. I use that on pretty much everything. So check that out. Maybe. That's all I've got. I'm going to go and get ready for the Mormons, and I'm so sorry this has been another 18-minute video. I told myself I would get better at making videos, but I still haven't figured out how I want to do that, have I? If you've got suggestions for videos as well, leave that in the comments, because, yeah, I want to do more of this, but I still don't know what kind of video blogger I am. Anyway, that's all I have for today. So much for doing a short video. I'll see you next time.
Crowns on your soul forever. It's the end.